Welcome to the Happy in the Mess podcast. We are your hosts, Marlena, Sherry, and Matthew. We are therapists and coaches, and we want to share our own stories with you, as well as the wisdom, insights, and tips we've learned along the way. Thanks for tuning in to this episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Happy in the Mess podcast. We are joined here together with Sherry Timko, the relationship coach, Matthew Morgan, who is going to be our spotlight coach today. He's going to describe what he does and who he is and what makes him tick. He is the misfit spirituality coach, and myself, I am a spirituality dating coach as well. And we are excited to learn more about Matthew. There's going to be a lightning round at the end, so please stay tuned for that. And Matthew, kick us off.
Yes.
Who are you and how did you get into this?
It's a great question. I have no clue. Somebody said there would be food, and I just showed up. No. There's a long journey. There's a short journey. The short journey, the short version of this is just counselor, and I was enjoying my work, but there was just so much more that I could do. And I found a lot of times there were things that I was really passionate about and got deeper into. And I think that the first thing that jumps to mind is I would do this as a teacher too. I taught before I was a counselor, and I would look out at a classroom of 25 students and I'd see one kiddo, and I'm like, oh, that one needs help. They don't fit in. They're not doing the normal things. Everybody else is okay. It's that weirdo in back or in front. Like I want to be able to reach this one. And so that kind of spilled over into everything, and it's always been my passion. And even as my tagline with the idea of a misfit, I was like that one weirdo that doesn't fit in. How can we help make them feel normal and loved and special and unique and know that they have a gift? And so that's spilled into counseling, it's spilled into coaching. And if you ask me the one thing, it's always just that misfit has a purpose and has a plan for their life in the universe.
That's a beautiful thing. What kind of work do you see yourself doing with them? That's kind of the overview, but what would you actually do to help someone?
So with coaching with me, I always take a very strength-based approach because I want to know what makes that person tick. What unique gifts do they have? What unique ways of seeing things? Working with ADHD people, highly sensitives, we have this ability to not see what everybody else sees. But it also creates a blindness about themselves. So my coaching work, a lot of it's identifying those strengths. It's identifying what are the actual obstacles that we come into place. There's always obstacles. There's always tons of things out there, but they're not our obstacles. So it's really trying to determine what can we do and how do we take those on one at a time, and how do we use our unique gifts to do it. So I do all of that, and then I provide accountability for it. And I also, this is going to come as a huge shock to some people, but I have a little bit of a geeky streak to me. So I love the idea of gamification and sarcasm, but I think that idea of just making it fun and really being able to draw the humor, the fun into life, and being able to push them through it that way.
So you see people and perhaps show them what they've been not seeing in themselves. Yes. And help and use that to help them navigate their challenges.
Absolutely. That's well said. That's really what I want them, and I want them to see themselves in that way too.
Mm-hmm.
How does that mirror your own personality?
Oh my goodness. So I have always been the weirdo. If you go back to high school, I was the misfit. In middle school, God help us, middle school, just, I always say everybody just deserves a medal for getting through middle school.
And a block of deodorant, let me just say.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll leave it that way. It's a struggle. As a teacher, I have so many stories, but I'm not going to embarrass my students with that. So as far as me, like I didn't have those. Well, I did. I had a few people who really, if I look back, were really instrumental in pushing me through really key areas of my life. The first one that jumps to mind is my English teacher my freshman year, who just encouraged me to write and saw what people didn't see as we kind of shared writing. And he has since passed, but he is just always an amazing person, and the world is definitely a loss without him. I had him. I had a marketing professor or teacher my senior year, who really was that was the first time I started believing in myself that I could actually do things and accomplish things. So I think for me, it's there's all those little touch points, and if I tell people a lot of times with mental health counselors, coaches, we're almost the firefighters where we come through our own burning building, and rather than run away like a smart person would, like we want to go back in there and drag a few more people out.
Mm.
And I think that's for me, that's been my journey is I want to go back in there, pull a few more people, keep them coming and letting them believe in themselves and know that they're unique and special and wonderful.
So, Matthew, did you know always that you were going to end up in a helping profession? Or I'm curious, and what was your undergrad major?
Um, this has been an interesting path. If you asked me if I would end up here, never in a million years.
Mm.
I go back to it, since I'm in the high school mode and thinking about it. I remember my first speech where I was trembling and sweating and dropping things and falling all over myself. And I swore in that moment I would never do anything where I had to talk in front of people.
Wow.
Um, Clearly, I have failed at that one. So, in a good way, I think. Leaving high school, I always had in mind I want to do some sort of sciencey kind of thing. So, be a lab nerd somewhere.
Mm.
Um, but the marketing teacher that I talked about with the DECA program, he really inspired me so much that I wanted to become a teacher. And it didn't work really well. It wasn't a great fit. But during that time, I really had kind of a spiritual reawakening or awakening. I don't know. God and I had gotten really close at that point and felt like I was called to the ministry. And I think I shared this in one of the previous spots where I ended up, my wife and I got married. We moved out to North Dakota. And I got my undergrad in pastoral ministries, biblical studies. Did 4 years, worked my way through it, and I got to the end, and I don't want to call this person out just in case. One of the individuals said that I did not have the right personality to be a pastor, and that I really should consider a different career, which is not what you want to hear after you've invested 4 years. And honestly, there was a lot of trauma through my undergrad. I got super sick. I almost died from an illness. Um, had a couple surgeries during that time, and it's like one of those things you think you hit the finish line, and he moved it, and
Mm.
I didn't know what to do with that. So we made the decision. We came home. I did some odd jobs for a while and hated it. Um, and so I finally, I was having one of the depression, like deep funk, don't want to sleep, hated life, angry at everybody. And so I decided that I was going to be a teacher. I was going to go back to that original passion, and combine that with my biblical studies. And so I went and I started substitute teaching for a Christian school. Told myself I was going to do this because I just couldn't find the jobs. I tried. I'm going to do this as long as it takes. And literally quit my job, went in the next Monday to sub for somebody who was out for a week. And they had just let another teacher go mid-year, and I was able to fill that spot. And I spent the next 8 years with just some amazing students and learning that. But then as the career evolved, and the quick version is that's where I went back, got my counseling degree, and then evolved into coaching. So no, none of this is planned. It's all just fly by the seat of my pants, whatever the day brings.
Wow, you were really able to pivot.
Mhm.
Um, and in a sense, it sounds like teaching and counseling and coaching now has been kind of your ministry, maybe you're not working for a church, but you're certainly in a ministry.
That that's the way I try to take that. And again, it works with the whole everything because it's now I'm working with the fringe people that they don't fit in, they don't fit with everybody else. And this is where I'm ironically where I'm happiest. Um,
Mm,
we had talked in one of our previous episodes about when we're change paths, and when we focus on what we really bring, that idea of we find that little light in the darkness and we know to follow it.
mm,
And I think that's what this has been.
absolutely. And super appropriate because you are the misfit coach. So
Always.
had you gone mainstream, perhaps mainstream Christian church, it might not have drawn in the right crowd.
Mhm. I probably agree with that. I appreciate that insight.
Mhm.
Sounds like you've had a lot of challenges that you've overcome and gone through your own fires. So there's a lot of wisdom that comes with that.
I appreciate that. There really is. It's one of those where you would never wish it on anybody else, but there's definitely a refinement process that's in there. And and I shared this again, and I think in our intro, but I remember one of the early moments was I had somebody praying for me before we left for school even. This was an evangelist who had come in to speak in our church, and he talked about when he joined the Marines, he expected the Marines to be the dress blues and everybody all fancy and wonderful. And he said that's not what it's like. And he said ministry is the same way. And he goes, this is what it's like. And in the Pentecostal circles, we have this tradition that a lot of people have seen where you lay hands, the person falls over. And I was kind of expecting that. He just did the complete opposite, where he just reached back and just popped me in the shoulders, hit me. And this is a very large framed man. And our pastor was behind me to catch me. Um, and he just did this. He hit real forcefully. And as I came back up again, this time he reached up and he bear hugged me. And he goes, that's really what ministry is like. He says, it's going to knock you down and you've got to get back up and keep pushing through. And I went, oh, that's great. And here I am 20 plus years later going, he's absolutely right. Like everything has it's been knocked on my keister, get back up again and just keep walking.
What a
Wow.
powerful lesson right there at the beginning of your career that probably has unfolded over the years. So I'm curious where you see your work going over the next few years.
It's a great question. Let me know. No, just it again. It's been a steady refinement, and I think as I have settled into who I am as a coach, and I will fully admit I don't know that I wholly understand everything each step, um, and I think it's always just doing the best with where I'm at. Um, and I tried my learning lesson for 2022 was that I overgrew. I I I wouldn't trade it, but I tried to expand my counseling practice in a certain way, and it didn't work. Um, and for a long time, I kind of processed that as like, oh, I failed, I screwed up, I didn't make this mark. And then there's been a mind shift over the holiday season where it was like, no, I'm right where I need to be. And so I'm pulling more inward and trying to grow upward. So there's been a lot of I'm working to reach more people in my way. So being able to do I've got some groups coming up in the counseling practice, trying to get a lot of coaching material out there, and really just reaching out to the people who are hurting. One of my projects has been working with pastors who are burned out, and they don't have resources. They don't have a lot of people they can go to. They don't have a lot of financial things. So this is not a get rich thing, but it's that ability to really help out. And when I'm stable and feeling okay where I'm at, that's where I'm going to go with it. So I think it's embracing this very niche area I'm at of geekiness, of spirituality, of feeling misfit, and really just kind of planting and putting that out in the universe and allowing all of those people who are out there, those fringe people, to come and really just feel that acceptance.
Mm. Well, this brings me to my next question that I'm really curious about in your story. And you mentioned that perhaps you come from Pentecostal tradition. I don't know if that remains to be true or not. But how would you describe your spirituality to people who don't know about that, or perhaps it doesn't really follow the doctrine of that anyway? But yeah, how would you describe it? How does it play into your work?
It's a great question, and I appreciate it because it's not one I always have a chance to answer a lot.
Mm.
and maybe not, it's not going to be the most popular answer. Being as I come from a very staunch church tradition, and when I say come from, I wasn't raised in this at all. This was something that really was a changing point during my teen years, and it's continued to grow and change. Um, the first thing that jumps to mind, we were actually, my wife and I had the chance to go to Finland, and we were there in Helsinki, and we're talking about all the churches, and there's beautiful architecture, this wonderful Scandinavian architecture, um, these churches, and we were talking with our guide, and our guide says, "Yeah, we have all these churches, but they're not used for church. Like most Finns don't go to church. What they do on the weekends is they get out into nature and spend time with God, the universe that way." And that was just, again, that's one of those touch points in life that gets filed back there. And I would say that's probably very indicative of where my spirituality is right now. I'm not,
Communing with
because of
nature.
with nature, with God, the universe, and it can be plant nature, but sometimes it's sitting down here in my office and sitting with music, and that way, and it's a very personal relationship. The church organization and we have some issues right now that we are working on, I think, is maybe the nice way to say that. Um, the misfit nature, right? The fact that I don't belong here, I have felt that, and rather than really allow that to beat myself down, I'm allowing it to let my spirituality grow and figure out what's most important,
Mhm.
which I think is God. It's God's love, and that's very much my spirituality is that God loves us all. He has created us uniquely and for a purpose. And sometimes we have to find what that is, and sometimes we feel a little bit like, okay, this is so crass, and I'm going to apologize, but I tend to speak what I say anyway. The Bible has a story about one body, many parts, and I always point out that somebody has to be the butt of the body, and that's the way that I feel sometimes,
Mhm.
um, and but again, it doesn't mean that it's not important. So that's my spirituality in a nutshell. It's weirdness, but I think it's what it is for right now. It's who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful. I think a lot of people can relate to this idea that you feel connected when you're listening to beautiful pieces of music or music that speaks to you, or feel connected when you're in nature and communing with creation.
I love the
Yeah.
reminder that we are all in the middle of this journey. And, so there's stuff that isn't all pretty and packaged and worked out.
Mm.
But there is stuff that we've learned along the way, and there's still stuff to learn as we go forward.
And I think, and truly in talking spirituality, I think that's the beauty of spirituality is it's not
Mhm.
the danger has always come when we think we have it figured out.
Yes.
And when we speak for God and we speak for the universe at an organizational level, people are going to not like this. We tend to we tend to overstep or oversimplify or overcomplicate. We lose our path.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think as it becomes personal, it becomes real. It's messy. Spirituality has always been messy. If you read, I'm very much a firm believer in the Bible, but the Bible is messy. It's this conglomeration of stories from different people in different time periods and different languages, and there's no way we can get all this figured out. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
even go back to the basic, and I don't mean to get preachy here, but the basic pronoun for God that a lot of us use is he. And but yet when you examine this, it's like God has both masculine, feminine traits. We don't have a word that embodies masculine, feminine, and personal. It our very language fails us. So why do we have this all figured out?
Mm-hmm.
Let's enjoy and embrace the mess as we go on.
Right. Right.
I love how these deep thoughts and inform your work because I know that you weave this seamlessly into what you do.
I really try to, and everybody's at different points of their lives too. But again, I think that's allowing them to be messy. And a lot of my clients and that's what they talk about, is just they're allowed to be messy. They're allowed to not have it all together right now. And those who come from religious backgrounds, they need that. They need that permission to fall apart sometimes, and
Mm.
as well as everybody else.
Something that really struck me in your story, if you don't mind going back to it or talking about how you work through it, is when that devastating moment when someone told you that you were not a fit for this thing, for ministry, or they did not see your personality. Sorry, I didn't mean to say quite the
No,
way.
that's the way it came across. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how do you feel about that now? Have you forgiven? Do you even believe in that? Is that even necessary? It kind of brings up that idea of forgiveness too.
It really does. And I'm going to say I'm forgiving.
Yeah.
Um,
No judgment
I,
over here. I'm just curious.
it is it's very tough. It is, I will say it's a, if this was a physical thing, there would be a very large scar there.
Mm,
Um, it has healed over, but there's always a reminder, and it's not as fresh as the day that this individual told me this. And even being now 20 plus years removed from that moment, it it doesn't own me anymore. It doesn't own my emotions. So in that sense, I have forgiven this person. I don't know if they knew what they were doing in this case. And again, it may have been from a good intention point, because I don't know that they were completely wrong,
mm,
but the way that they did it was not helpful. And so what I've had to do is go on a healing journey from that moment, and allow it that space of, maybe a traditional pulpit ministry wasn't the right place for me, but there still is a place. And it's been learning to find that journey. Um,
mm,
so, and the fact that when I tell this story, that it's still there, there's still the emotions with it. So again, going back to your question of forgiveness, when it comes up, I just have to make that conscious effort just to send love to this person, and just, he's still circles around in Facebook. So like, I know they're there, they're still pertinent in the organization. So
mm,
it's like I know that they're there, and it's just a conscious effort of that hurt drove me to a better place,
mm.
and it's okay. Still hurt. Like
Isn't
it's
that true
still
of
hurt.
all of us? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that took a lot of courage, and thank you for sharing that part of your story. Just really quick, we're going to go into the lightning round soon. But how do if people want to work with you? This was such a lovely way into a lot of people have experienced this, some devastating comment by someone else that has redirected them, sometimes unwillingly.
Yeah.
So if people want to work with you, how do they get a hold of you?
I would always love to work with people who have those wounds. Again, especially if it's coming from the church. But anybody, parents, things like that. I think we all go through a lot of those messages. So I love working with people who are working through that. There's a couple places. The easiest is just my full name, MatthewEMorgan.com. Just because Matthew Morgan's such a common name. But Matthew E. Morgan, they can go to that website. There's a link to my counseling practice. There's a link to my coaching practice there. So that's probably the best place to find me. You can also check me out on socials. I use Misfit Refuge as my tag for a lot of that.
Excellent. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, certainly.
So any other burning questions, Sherry, before you go on and lead our lightning round for Matthew, which I'm really excited about?
Yeah, I'm curious, who is in the background cheering you on?
Mm.
Oh, that is a great question. I I have my wife and I have been together for 25 years. I hope she's not hearing this. That was a little bit of a stutter there. I had to check. Um, so and I will, full transparency. It's never been fully like it's there's always problems. There we go. However, she has been this incredible stability point. I've always referred to her as my anchor. She is the one that will hold tight, let me know I'm okay. So she has been, in that sense, a super deep cheerleader. Um, so she does that. My son, I've got a 12-year-old son who's not supposed to be here. The quick version is we are not supposed to be able to have children, and he begs to, differ with the doctors, what they say. So he is unknowingly, he is my cheerleader because I wake up every day and I say, how can I make this boy proud? How can I make his life better and have him be in a better place than what I was when I was at his age? So probably not the cheerleading squad that most people have, but they are definitely the best ones for it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we wanted to do this lightning round to get to know you a little bit better in some different ways. So I'm going to throw out some questions to you and just answer whatever comes first. We'll see where
Okay.
that goes.
It could be
Okay.
dangerous.
Where could we find you on a Friday night? What would you be doing?
Friday night is usually, this is so awesome, pizza and movie night with my family. So we make homemade pizzas and we each take a turn and pick a movie that we want to see.
Nice.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee, although I'm drinking tea right now.
Favorite kind of cookie?
My grandmother's orange cookies.
Mm.
So,
And your
Nice.
favorite kind of ice cream?
mint chocolate chip.
What
Same.
would you eat as a breakfast food?
Um, I am, with my desire, if I could eat whatever, I would say bacon and eggs. They're probably my good staple breakfast food.
Okay. And what's your late night snack?
Cinnamon Chex cereal.
And if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go?
My first inclination would be to go back to Greece, the island of Mykonos. Just an amazing, beautiful place.
Oh, nice. And this is just to wrap it up, because I know this is important to you,
Mhm.
not necessarily lightning, but what do your tattoos signify?
Oh goodness, yeah. The quick version, and it took me a long time. Again, Pentecostal tradition, we don't want to have tattoos are always frowned upon. So this was a huge break for me to decide to do this. And I wanted something meaningful, but it was a very organic process. So blessings to Skylar for everything he went through because we designed this on the fly. Um, but the quick version, so there's a triquetra up here, the Celtic Trinity symbol up on my shoulder, which is symbolic of God and the triune God of the universe, as well as a Northern European heritage. So that goes down into a cello, which is I'm a cellist for just by fun, and it's one of those things that really keeps me anchored. Music's always been awesome for me. The cello has a cross as an end pen, to signify my relationship with Jesus. There's also a semicolon buried in the bass clef part of that one. So just to symbolize what I had gone through as a child and the fact that things did not end when I thought they were going to. Um, oh, sorry, real quick. The two half notes are my wife and I, the two tied together to make a whole. Underneath, I have a bass clef, which is both wood and nature, or it's nature and music together. And the two dots have M's in them. One of them is for my son's first name, and the other is for the little one that we lost prior to him. So that was a very, always keep in mind those two of them. And then the lower part is the hymn, It Is Well With My Soul, written out with nature behind it, which the quick version of that is it's a song that was written out of tremendous pain, as Horatio Spafford, the author, lost his family on a ship, and he penned these words that just really talked about his faith and when things fall apart, what still holds on there. So that's always been a super meaningful song for me.
Wow.
That
So
is beautiful. There's so
thank you.
much thought put into that. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us today. I feel like we've learned so much about you and how you have found that happiness in the mess. And I hope our listeners will look you up and find out how they can work with you and some of the opportunities that you put out there. And of course, they can do that at MatthewEMorgan.com.
And your
Thank you
social
very
handles
much.
are Misfit Refuge,
Yeah.
so they can find you there too. It was lovely talking with you today. Very inspirational, your story and your
Thank you.
tattoos.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
And if you like this episode, please like, share, and subscribe, comment, reach out to Matthew. We would love to hear from all of you, and hit that notification bell so you know when our new episodes are coming out.